Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Medical Classes by Srinidhi Kumar Acharya. Don't forget to subscribe the channel and also give your valuable comments. So today we will be back with one more important topic related to Samskara, that is Jata Karma Samskara. So we have already dealt with two important classes related to the basics of Samskara, in which we have tried to give some of the basic information regarding the samskara and its understanding. And we have also seen that how a samskara can be very well compared with the growth and developmental concepts. So now, today onwards, we will see individual samskara. So in this series, the first samskara is Jata Karma Samskara. So today we will have detailed understanding of Jata Karma Samskara, its scientific understanding, and its use in the present day practice. The procedure of Jata Karma Samskara. This is actually a very special procedure which is mentioned in Kaumarmritya, which is done immediately after birth. This samskara is done immediately after birth. It's very clear. Okay. So, what actually we are doing in samskara is, one of the basic step is, Madhu and Ghruta are mixed with the gold and other drugs, and it is given for the licking to the neonate immediately after the birth. As it is done immediately after the birth, what we are doing is Madhu and Ghruta are mixed together, and for that gold is also added, and according to some authors, some of the other drugs are also added, and that is given for the licking. So this is one of the basic step in this samskara. So Madhu Ghruta Prashana will be there. Okay. So now different authors explain this samskara with different understanding. Okay, although the basic steps are simple and same, and different acharyas will have different opinion on that, and accordingly we have to understand the present day utility of that particular samskara. So this is the explanation given by Charaka. First we will deal with the opinion of Charaka. Charaka Samhita says, Tato anantaram jata karma kumarasya karyam tadyataha madhusarpishihi mantropamantrite yata nyayam pratamam prashitum dadyat stanam atam urdvam etena eva vidina dakshinam patuhu purastat prayachet atataha शीर्षतः स्थापयेत उदक कुंभम मंत्रोपमंत्रितम. So this is the reference given by Charaka regarding Jata Karma Samskara. The reference is available in Charaka Sharirasthana Adhyaya 8th chapter. Now if you analyze this particular explanation given by Charaka, now these are the things. See, what are the points to be understood here is, actually this samskara has got three important steps according to Charaka. One is, this has to be done immediately after birth, no doubt, yes. Now, what are the three important steps? According to Charaka, the three important steps which are involved in Jata Karma Samskara are, one is Madhu and Sarpi should be taken after chanting the mantra. That is, Madhu and Sarpi should be mixed with the gold-like substances, and it should be given for licking to the baby along with the chanting of the mantras. Point number one. Or you can say step number one. Step number two is, feeding should be started as early as possible from the right breast. Stanam atam eteneva dakshina parshva. That is, feeding should be started as early as possible from the right breast. And third point is, a pot which is filled with the water should be kept above the head level of the baby. If you go through the exact meaning of the shloka, so these are the three important points which are included under the heading of Jata Karma Samskara by Charaka. Okay, so one is you have to go for Madhu Sarpi Prashana by mixing with the gold etc. and given for the licking. Number two, then you have to start the feeding of the baby, breastfeeding of the baby, preferably from the right breast. And third one is, in the meantime, you have to keep a pot which is filled with the water above the head level of the baby. Not at the head of the baby, head level of the baby. It means it should be kept at a higher place. Now, let us have understanding these particular three steps. Tadyataha madhusarpishihi mantropamantritehe etam pratamam prashitum dadyat. So, what is the scientific understanding of these particular steps? First step, he says that in Jata Karma Samskara is, we have to go for Madhu Ghruta. Madhu and Ghruta should be mixed together. The dose is again not mentioned by him. Okay. So preferably Manam na uttam samam grahim. Okay. So Madhu and Ghruta should be taken together. Okay. And then it is given for the licking. Now it is very clear. So this is, when you give Madhu and Ghruta mixing together and taking your digits or fingers and then give for the sucking or licking, then this is nothing but a simple test for sucking, rooting and swallowing reflexes. Okay, in the present day context. Okay, so by making the baby to lick madhu and grita, so we are now trying to understand whether baby is able to suck, whether baby is able to rooting, or whether the baby is swallowing. Because these three are the important reflexes. These three are important feeding reflexes which should be there before the initiation of the feeding. Okay, so in the contemporary science also very clearly says these three are considered as feeding reflexes, and before initiation of the feeding, these three reflexes has to be checked. Sucking is, so when you keep the finger inside the mouth, baby suddenly start the sucking. Okay, it has got that tendency. Number two is rooting. Before sucking, you have to go for rooting. Rooting means just touch the lips above area or below the area, etc. Now the child will deviate the mouth towards the point of sensation like this. Okay, so then go for sucking, and then swallowing. That is very important. Only sucking and rooting is not important. Whatever baby breast milk is sucked, that has to be swallowed very well. Otherwise, there may be aspirations. So these three are considered as important feeding reflexes. Okay. Now the first step which is mentioned by Jata Karma Samskara by Charaka is nothing but testing for the feeding reflexes before the initiation of the feeding. Before the initiation of the feeding. Okay. Now apart from that madhu grita which is used here, it has got some other benefits also. So we know that madhu will go into cleanse the respiratory tract. Kashaya rasa and all those things is there. It will go into clean the respiratory tract. And grita is there. So grita will act as a soothing substance, and also lubricating effect will be imparted. And this both will give the effect of trophic feed to stimulate the GIT. There is a concept of trophic feed. Trophic means it is a small amount of the feed which is given immediately after birth in order to stimulate the GIT. Okay, contemporary science also says this type of references. So by that, peristaltic movement of the GIT will be get stimulated, and the maturation of the GIT starts. Okay, so here also one is it is a simple test for the swallowing reflexes or feeding reflexes. Second one is it cleanses the respiratory tract. Third one is it also fulfills the criteria of a trophic feed, so that peristaltic movement of the GIT will be initiated and the maturity of the GIT starts, and there will be passing of the stool and all those things. Okay, this is the first part. Now, stanam atam urdhvam eteneva vidinaha dakshinam patuh purastha. Here, once you check the feeding reflexes and you find that the feeding reflex is normal, baby is able to root, baby is able to suck, and baby is able to swallow, and there is a coordination between these three reflexes, because it is always a coordination which is very important. If there is coordination between three reflexes, it suggests that baby is developed all the three reflexes very well. Now this is the ideal indication for the initiation of the feeding. That's what exactly Charaka says. Once you check the feeding reflexes, then go for stanamatam urdhvam eteneva vidinaha dakshinam patu. You should start feeding the baby preferably from the right breast. So once the condition is favorable for feeding, then it fulfills all the criteria required to initiate the feeding. Breastfeeding should be initiated as early as possible from the right breast of the mother. Okay. Now, the questions will come. Why Charaka only explained right breast? Why not from the left breast? See, this is nothing special in this. Okay. So we know that every good work or holy work, when we initiate, it is always started from the right side. Okay. I think that's the only meaning over here. Okay. So you can also start from the left side if it is convenient to you. Okay. And one thing. Second one is, if somebody else is feeding the baby, suppose somebody is holding the baby and making the mother holding the baby to the breast of the mother and feeding them, then right side is more preferable than the most comfortable than the left side. Suppose it's the mother herself feeding, then the left breast is more comfortable for us. Okay, that's a different issue. But what I think is, one is all the procedure should be started from the right side according to Hindu philosophy, and therefore this might have been mentioned. Number one. Number two is, Charaka want to give another message. What is that message? That means when he says right breast, he says that one breast has to be completely emptified before shifting to the another breast. This is scientific. Okay, so whenever you feed the baby, one breast should be completely emptified. It usually takes, in a well-formed, if the breast milk is well-formed, it takes about 20 minutes. Okay, so initially it is not possible that much. So one breast has to be completely emptified before going to the next breast, because breast milk is divided into three parts: fore milk, mid milk, and hind milk. Okay, fore milk is rich in carbohydrate, hind milk is rich in protein, and the last one, mid milk is rich in protein, and last, the hind milk or hind milk, that is rich in fat. So if you are only giving breastfeeding for 5 minutes from one breast and then shifting to the next breast, then baby is only receiving the 4 milk which only contain carbohydrate. So weight gain will not be there, and there are so many other problems. So probably Charaka want to give this message that don't feed from the alternate breast immediately. Completely emptify one breast so that baby will be ensured with all the 3 types of the milk. That means carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Then only shift to the another breast. To indicate this, probably Charaka have told that right breast first, then comes left breast. Maybe this is the idea. This is what we assume. There may be some changes. The last, so this is second part is over. So first you have checked the feeding reflexes, then you have started the feeding. Now comes Ataha Shirshataha Stapayir Udakakumbam Mantropamantratam. What is the importance of this? The simple meaning is very simple. Above the head level of the baby, you have to keep it Udakakumba, which is filled with the water. Okay. Now importance of this is maintenance of temperature. Now here the word Udakakumba which is kept over, it is just for checking the temperature. Checking the temperature, because temperature has to be maintained at a higher level as far as newborn is concerned, because uterine temperature is about 5 degrees more than the outside temperature. So immediately after coming out, baby will have hypothermia. Okay, so outside temperature has to be maintained at a higher level. Okay, so probably keeping Udakakumba above the head level of the baby is one of the method of maintaining the temperature inside the room, where the or inside the Suchigara or wherever this mother and child baby has been kept. What I mean to say is, suppose if you fill a hot water in this particular Udakakumba, okay, so especially in the winter season, it helps to maintain the temperature inside the room. And in the summer season, if you keep the temperature down, so you can fill it with the cold water. So baby is comfortable in slightly higher degree of temperature than the adults. Compared to adults, we may feel discomfortable with the temperature, higher temperature, but for baby it is required, because baby has habituated for higher temperature in the 9 months of pregnancy. Okay, so these are the 3 important steps which is mentioned by Charaka in relation to Jata Karma Samskara. So if you analyze in this way, it's very clear that maintain the temperature inside the room, then check the feeding reflexes, initiate the feeding. That's all about what is explained as Jata Karma Samskara by Charaka, along with some other added benefits. Now, the Jata Karma Samskara mentioned by Shusrutha is slightly different from Jata Karma Samskara of Charaka. Okay, so what Shusrutha says in the Shusrutha's 10th chapter, Ataha Kumaram Sheetabhir Adbhir Ashwasya Jata Karmani Kritehe Madhusarpir Ananta Churnam Angulyam Ananikayam Lehayat. Ananika, finger he told. For Lehana, which finger you have to select? Anamika finger. Okay. Madhusarpir Ananta Brahmi Rasena Suvarna Churnam Angulya Anamikan Lehayat. So these 2 references are there. Now, it is slightly different from what is told by Charaka. So Charaka never mentioned the word gold. Okay, Madhu and Sarpi should be given for the licking. This is only what Charaka says. But when you come to Shusrutha, he says very clearly that Jata Karmani Madhu Sarpir Ananta Churnam. Okay, word Ananta has got different meaning that we will discuss. So that is what Charaka says. Along with the Madhu and Sarpi, you have to also add the Ananta Churnam. Another reference is, you can also rasa Madhu Sarpir Anantam Brahmi Rasena. Even the Brahmi Rasa can be also added while giving the when you are giving the mixture for the licking. So like this, 2 references are available regarding Jata Karma Samskara by Shusrutha. Now, so let us look into the meaning of this as per Shusrutha. As after receiving the baby, what he says is, first baby should be stabilized, and then cold water should be sprinkled to prevent the apneic attacks and get rid of the stress. See, Ataha Kumaram Sheetabhir Adbhir Ashwasya. Sheetabhir Adbhir Ashwasya. That means first you have to stabilize the baby, and if the baby is not breathing, just put the sensation. We have discussed. We will go to discuss it in newborn research station. Okay, Mukhe Parisheka. Okay, so that is one of the type of touch sensation which stimulates the respiration. So after receiving the baby, it should be stabilized first, and cold water should be sprinkled to prevent the apneic attacks and to get rid of the stress. And this will be followed by the Madhu and Ghita. are taken in one fistful quantity of the baby. Here he also mentioned, Charaka not mentioned the quantity, but he mentions the quantity now. So he says that Swapani Tala Pramana. What is the dose of Madhu and Grita? That should be fistful quantity, Swapani Tala Pramana, and by it should be licked. Child should be made lick, and for the licking you have to use an anamika finger. Okay, that should be very clean and trimmed for the nails and all, and physician should try to administer it by licking. Okay, now finger should be clean and nail should be trimmed. Okay, now here along with the Madhu and Sarpi, Swapani Talapramana, the Suvarna or Ananta Churna should be also added, and again he says the Ananta Churna should be added in Gunja Pramana. So Shusrutha is very clear about all the quantity wise. Okay, added in Ananta Churna should be added in Gunja Pramana, Madhu Sarpi should be taken in Swapani Tala Pramana. Okay, then it should be administered. And you can also add some of the other drugs like Brahmi Surasa. Now, Jata Karma Samskara explained by Vagbhata. It is again slightly different from Shusrutha. So what is it? Vruddha Vagbhatena Prashana Bihatam Yataha Endri Brahmi Shankapushpi Vachakalkam Madhu Grutopetam Harenu Matram. The dose is Harenu Matra. Okay. Kusha Abhimandritam Suvarnena Ashwattapatrena va Medhayu Balajananam Prashayet Brahmi Vacha Anantam Shatavarya Anyatha Ananta Churnam va. So now it is still more modified version. Charaka's version is not very restricted, and Shusrutha has got some more modification, and Vagbhata has gone for some more modification, further modification. Okay, so Madhusarpisham Mishram Suvarna Churnam Kruto Lehayiti Ityamaha Damaninam Ityadihi Ananta Nishritam Tasya Suvarnasya Gunya Pramanena Nishritam Madhusarpisho Manam Vakshamanam Swapanitada Sammitam Bhotavyam. Now we will see the meaning of this. So what he says, on the first day it should be given for 3 kalas. So again the mixture he mentioned. Okay, so he mentioned different types of mixtures, that drugs like Endri, Brahmi, Shankapushpi, Vacha are taken. This is given in the shloka, and Kalka is formed, and it is mixed with the Harenu Matra of Madhu and Grita, and it is also mixed with the Suvarna Churna. It is also mixed with the Ashwata Churna or Ashwata Patra, Shatavari Churna, and given for the purpose of given for licking by using the anamika finger, and this has got some different benefits like Medhayu Balavardhana. Okay, so purpose of increasing lifespan and strength. Okay, so now here so many drugs are added. So now this means along with fulfilling the feeding reflexes, okay, compatibility of the feeding reflexes, now this Vagbhata's reference also suggests some other added benefit of a Jata Karma Samskara. So therefore he says Medhayu Balavardhanam. That means, so it may be initial or primary sensitization of the body immune system, or it may be primary sensitization of the nerve system. Okay, so by introducing the major drugs in the beginning itself. So like this, Vagbhata's reference give this particular idea. But further, Ashtanga Hridaya, if you go, and even in Ashtanga Sangraha, this is a method he is mentioned, but again he says Prajapatyena Vidinaha Jata Karmani Karayet. So how it has to be done? He told that it should be done according to Prajapatya Vidhi. Prajapatya Vidhi means Vedokta Vidhi. What is explained in the Veda, accordingly you have to do the Jata Karma Samskara. So this procedure should be performed as per the Prajapatya Vidhi. Feeding schedule for term and appropriate for the gestational baby has been explained as per Ayurveda. Okay, Charaka's explanation, what we are seeing, it is initiating the feeding as early as possible after checking for feeding reflexes is best suited for the normal babies. This is the explanation now we are giving. Now if you see here, see this is the explanation given by Vagbhata. So when you start the feeding, how you have to start the feeding? On the first day, the feeding, this Madhu Gruta along with Swarna, Ashwata and so many other drugs which are all mentioned there, he says it should be given for 3 kalas. Okay, it should be given for 3 kalas. How? On the first day it should be given for 3 kalas. Same should be given. There is no breast. See, that's the difference. He didn't told about starting of the breastfeeding. In the first day he told that only give this mixture. Okay. On the second and third day, same is given along with Lakshmana Siddha Grita for 3 kalas. Okay. Fourth day, morning and afternoon, Madhu and Grita Prashana should be done. And in the night, that is Tritiya Kala, exclusive breastfeeding should be continued. Now, word Suvarna or Ananta used in this context conveys a different meaning. I think we will see that later. Okay. Now, so the explanation given by Ashtanga and Shusrutha, so that will definitely not fit for the normal babies. Whereas Charaka's explanation, where feeding has to be started immediately after birth by checking the feeding reflexes, that will be best suited for the normal babies. Okay, normal term appropriate gestation age babies. Probably the explanation given by Shusrutha and Vagbhata may be best suited for the preterm babies. In the preterm babies, you cannot start the feeding at once because they are not developed sucking, rooting and swallowing reflexes. They take some time for the development of the sucking, rooting and swallowing reflexes. So by that time, usually in the contemporary science, we follow a method. So that method is called as non-nutritive sucking. What is non-nutritive sucking? Non-nutritive sucking means the finger has been taken, it should be very clean, and then it is put into the mouth of the baby, and now baby is sucking the finger. So this is an education for the baby to develop more and very strong sucking reflex. So like that, once sucking reflex is developed well, along with swallowing reflex, then only you have to start the feeding from the breast milk. Till then, according to contemporary science, they will go for some other method like NG feeding or gastric feeding, etc. Okay, but these things are not mentioned in Ayurveda. Ayurveda says that if suppose the baby is low birth weight baby, preterm baby, okay, or some other problem is there, and baby is not developed the feeding reflexes properly, then don't go for breast milk. And just give for these three things which are given here, different drugs, Grita, Madhu, etc. Okay, and time to time you go on testing whether the sucking and feeding reflex are developed or not. If they are developed, then you start the breastfeeding. So as an example, Vagbhata says that, Vagbhata and Shusrutha says that after third and fourth day you can start the breastfeeding. It may be initiated earlier also, that we will see. Okay, so one thing is very clear, Charaka's explanation is well suited for the normal babies, and Shusrutha and others' opinion, Vagbhata's opinion is well suited for preterm low birth weight babies, because both the authors are facing probably a different situation. Charaka is facing a situation where he is dealing with a normal baby. Okay, Vagbhata and others were facing a situation where they are dealing with the sick babies or preterm babies. So therefore, they might have been given different types of opinions. Let us see the same thing in detail. Now this is Jata Karma Samskara and feeding. If you look into the shlokas, Ataha Kumaram Shitabir Ashwasya Jata Karmani Kritehe Madhusarpir Ananta Churnam Angulyam Anamikaya Lehayet. Okay, so then Ataha Chaturte Divase Madhusarpim Prashayet Tadanantaram Chaturta Divasasya Tritiya Kala Arambaha Panchamadi Divaseshu Yate Nham Stanyapanam Karayet. So this is what he says. Shusrutha says. Fifth day you have to start the breastfeeding. Practically it is not possible in a normal baby, but it is possible in case of preterm and low birth weight babies. And same what contemporary science is also doing. We are only managing the baby with these Madhu, Grita, Lehana and all. But in the modern contemporary science, they are giving the breast milk after expression, and they are giving it by the NG tube. Okay, nasogastric tube they are giving. Okay, so or in some other emergency cases, they will put the IV line, intravenous line, and they maintain the baby. Okay, so now we will see that. See, this is the feeding schedule actually for the preterm and low birth weight as explained by Shusrutha. So what he says, first Annakala, second Annakala, third Annakala, morning, afternoon and evening you can take, or night. The first day what you have to do is Madhu, Grita, Suvarna and other drugs should be given on the first Annakala. Second Annakala also same, Madhu, Grita and Suvarna and other drugs should be given. Third Annakala is the same, Madhu, Grita, Suvarna and other drugs are given. Okay. Second day, first Annakala, you have to go for Madhu, Grita, Suvarna and other drugs along with the Lakshmana Siddha Gritas. Lakshmana Siddha Gritas. Then second Annakala, Madhu, Grita, Suvarna and other drugs with the Lakshmana Siddha Gritas. Third Annakala is also same. Third day, same as above. Same. Okay. On the fourth day also, same. And fourth day, evening, that is third Annakala, you can go for exclusive breastfeeding. Fifth day, again, exclusive breastfeeding. Okay, so this is a feeding schedule which is given for the given by Shusrutha, and you should not confuse it. Many of the time, our scholars they have unwanted discussion on this. okay, Shusrutha has given on the 5th day, Charaka has given on the 1st. No, it's different. Okay, Charaka is mentioning, or Charaka's method is best suited for the normal babies, where you have to start the feeding as early as possible. For the preterm and low birth weight babies, you have to delay the feeding. That is very important. Okay, why? Because if you give feeding forcefully in a preterm baby, it may not be digested and it may get stagnant in the intestine, and it may lead to a condition called as necrotizing enterocolitis. Okay, this is the main problem with the preterm babies. Okay, so slowly we have to give. We have to give the breast milk very slowly. Therefore, contemporaries usually they go for this IV methods and all to maintain till the maturity of the intestine takes place in a preterm baby. But Ayurveda follows a different method. Ayurveda follows a different method. So what they say is, they instead of non-nutritive sucking, they go for nutritive sucking. Madhugrita, they are nutritious in nature, and that has been given for the baby to increase the suckling reflexes. Okay, to prevent from these feeding complications, as happens in case of necrotizing enterocolitis, etc., in preterm and low birth weight babies. So what Ayurveda says is, give the very minimum amount of the feed for the first 3 days till his feeding reflex develops and intestine get mature. Because see, there is no much problem for the baby if you give the minimum nutrition. See, for the first 2 days, baby don't have any problem related to electrolyte imbalance. Okay, even in the IV also, we are only going for 5% dextrose or 10% dextrose for the newborn baby. There is no need of giving isolate in the first 2 days. The reason is, electrolytes which are taken from the mother at the time of the birth is sufficient for 48 hours. There is no such risk. Only thing which is immediately needed to the baby is carbohydrate, and that has been given by different methods. Okay, carbohydrate is given in the form of honey. Okay, Grita, which is a high calorie diet, that is also given in the form of Grita. And so many other drugs which are having rasayana property like Shatavari, Vidariganda, so they and Medha property, they are also given. Okay, so therefore, in those conditions, okay, 5,000 years back, when this IV line is not available and other methods of infant feeding is not available, in order to safeguard the preterm babies and also low birth weight is from such complications which arising in future, instead of feeding in excess, they follow a different method, feeding with restrictions. If you maintain the temperature, there will not be much requirement of the nutrition also. Because to maintain the temperature, baby has to lose much of the energy. For the energy, it wants to go for metabolism. For the metabolism, it wants glucose and all those things. So if you maintain the temperature itself, energy loss is minimum, heat loss is minimum, energy requirement is also minimum. Number one. Number two, Madhu and Grita you are giving, they are highly nutritious. For a newborn baby, in the initial days, that's also preterm. Okay, it's not a well developed newborn. Preterm baby, low birth weight baby, they have got only 1 or 1.5 kg child, a baby. So they actually, practically talking, this is sufficient. Okay, so this is how Ayurveda managed these preterm and low birth weight babies. Okay, therefore I told preterm and low birth weight babies feeding schedule according to Ayurveda. Okay, in those days, this is formulated 5,000 years back. Nowadays, a lot of advancement has been taken place. That's a different issue. Okay, so this Charaka's explanation is good for the normal baby, and Vagbata and Shusrutha's explanation is good for the preterm or low birth weight babies. Now, feeding of neonate as per Ayurveda. Above schedule which is better applicable for a preterm and low birth weight. This table what I have given. So, rooting and sucking reflexes will be gradually enhanced by licking the above mentioned drugs which act as nutritive sucking. Modern contemporary science explains non-nutritive sucking, but we are far ahead from them. So we say, why should be non-nutritive sucking? Go for nutritive sucking. Okay, when you apply Madhu and Grita over the finger area and then you are giving for the licking, baby will like it and it will have sucking also, more sucking also. Non-nutritive means after some time it may reject. Okay, when no taste is coming, it may leave the process of sucking, but in nutritive it will suck it. So gradually this helps to develop the sucking reflex. Okay, so drugs which are used are nutritionally very rich, as I told, and they prevent the baby from hypoglycemia. Carbohydrate should be given to the baby immediately after birth. That's must. Okay, so now this honey is sufficient to provide the sufficient amount of carbohydrate which is required for the baby. Some amount of carbohydrate is also present in the blood which is coming from the mother also. Okay, so now the drugs, some of the drugs are mentioned are Medha drugs. So they are having Medha property. Those they will act as brain tonics. By the fourth day, there will be coordination between the sucking, rooting, and swallowing. In general, what Ayurveda says is, in a preterm and low birth weight babies, if you follow this method, maybe by third or fourth day, so they develop a strong sucking and feeding reflexes, then you can go for active exclusive breastfeeding. Okay, now when they say third and fourth day, one mistake we are doing is we should not restrict for that. When you are giving this Madhugruta Prashana, first day, second day, for third Annakala, 1 Annakala, 2 Annakala, 3 Annakala, every time you have to check whether baby is developed sucking reflex or not. If the feeding reflexes are developed well on the first day itself, then you can initiate the feeding in the first day only. No problem. Charaka is giving Shusrutha is giving the maximum time. Shusrutha is giving the maximum time. By the fourth day, anyhow, baby has to develop. Later on, also, you cannot keep the baby on fasting like this. Okay, but well and good if it is developed in the first day itself. Well and good if it is developed in the second day itself. So fourth and fifth day, it is given as maximum time. It is given as maximum time, and it is not a fixed time. This is another mistake we are doing when you are learning the Ayurvedic concept. So we will stick on to that what they are given. They have given the maximum of that. It's a maximum time limit. Baby can develop before that also. So if baby develops sucking reflex, feeding reflex on the first day itself, by first and second Annakala, for the third Annakala, if the baby developed sucking and feeding reflex very well, then go for the breastfeeding directly. Go for the breastfeeding even in the preterm babies, no problem, because feeding reflexes has to be developed and there has to be coordination between the feeding reflexes. That's very important. Okay. Now, practically, this conveys the message that every day, baby should be tested for coordination of the reflexes. Okay, as far as to initiate the feeding as early as possible. If the baby establishes, this is what I am telling. If the baby establishes the coordination between rooting, sucking, and swallowing reflex earlier, maybe in the second day, first day itself, then immediately breastfeeding should be initiated. Low birth weight preterm baby usually develops functional intestinal obstruction, leading to necrotizing enterocolitis. This is also I have mentioned on feeding without calculation of the quantity of the milk. See, practically we have seen in the neonatal nurseries what is feeding excess to a preterm babies most of the time leads to necrotizing enterocolitis. Compared to that and the later complication of that necrotizing enterocolitis, it is better to keep minimum feed to the baby, especially for the preterm and low birth weight. Okay, later on baby pick up. Okay, instead of creating the complication, it is better to feed less. Okay, even contemporary science also, when they are dealing with the preterm babies, they calculate. They will start with the 5 ml. Okay, they will give 5 ml, then wait for 6 hours. After the 6 hours, again we will go for gastric aspiration, and we will see out of this 5 ml how much is get utilized. And if it is more than 2.5 ml or 2 ml, then we will postpone one feed. See, it is almost the same method which is followed. Instead of feeding more and creating complication, it is always wise to feeding less. Okay, so such a beautiful message is given by Shusrutha. So through this particular feeding schedule. Hence, minimum feeding with gradual increase in the amount is always preferred. It prevents so many complications like necrotizing enterocolitis. Now, so this is about the feeding schedule. Now, comments on the utility of Jata Karma Samskara in the present pediatric practice. Total Jata Karma Samskara. You take Charaka's opinion, Vagbhata's opinion, Shusrutha's opinion. In general, if you take, what is the utility of Jata Karma Samskara in the present clinical practice of pediatrics? Now, this provides an opportunity to examine the baby immediately after birth. Therefore, it is also counted under Samskara. Samskaras is one of the method procedures which are followed to see the growth and development. So, probably this is one of the method to see the growth and development of the baby, especially for the feeding, development of the feeding reflexes. Procedures of Jata Karma looks like the testing different guidelines for the initiation of the feeding. Yes, we have explained so much about it. Madhugruta licking helps to check and also initiate the sucking and rooting and swallowing reflexes, which should exist in coordination. That is also a test. We have also discussed this. Now, Madhu is a rich source of fructose, carbohydrate, okay, to yield the energy, and also the presence of harmine, which is present in it, prevents from the respiratory tract infection, and it also cleanses the respiratory tract because of its kashaya. Another important use. Madhu cleanses the Shrotas also. Okay. Ghृता is a high calorie diet which we are giving. It helps to give the instant energy with the lubricating effects. Okay, because in the preterm babies we are not feeding at all. So they want some energy. So Ghृta is helpful. So given in the newborn baby is as early as possible to stimulate the GAT. Okay. Now trophic feed, the concept of the trophic feed. This is well explained in the contemporary science. You have to give a minimum feed immediately after birth as early as possible to stimulate the peristaltic movement and stimulate the GAT. Okay, so usually breast milk, if it is mother is able to feed, that is a very good thing. If the mother is not able to feed the breast milk, then some other feed should be given. That is called as trophic feed. Okay, so this Madhu Ghruta Prashana immediately after birth is nothing but it is the concept of trophic feed, which is given in a very small quantity to stimulate the body peristaltic movement and GAT. Now, mixture of Madhu Ghruta and Ananta will initiate the primary immunization response. We have seen in the Swarna Prashana. In the Swarna Prashana also same mixture will be there. Madhu, Ghruta and Ananta, it act as a Viruddhahar-like substance. Okay, it helps to sensitize the body immune cells. Details we have discussed in some of the videos of Swarna Prashana also. Okay, so that's one important aspect. It also has got some utility in the primary immunization program. Okay, now keeping water filled in the pot above the head level of the baby is an effective method of maintaining the temperature and also checking the temperature for humidity and all. Okay, Charaka's explanation is well suited for the normal delivery, whereas a normal delivery or a healthy newborn, and looks like the general guideline for initiating the feeding. Very clear. Explanation of Shusrutha, where exclusive breastfeeding has been started after 3 days or 4 days, is best suited for preterm or sick neonate. So wherein there is a slow activation of the reflexes by the manual methods like non-nutritive sucking or nutritive sucking, and subsequently providing the caloric food by adding different drugs in the Ghruta medium. Initiation of the feeding from the right breast, we have also discussed this point also, carries a special message to the mother that one breast should be completely emptified before shifting to the another breast for the feeding. Now, lastly, we have got some parts to maintain. Mention? What is that? The word Ananta, which is mentioned here. Okay, so word Ananta, which is mentioned by Shusrutha and Vagbhata, it does not actually carry the meaning of gold or Swarna, because word Ananta Churna is mentioned some areas. Okay, Ananta is mentioned. Word Ananta also carries some of the other meaning. Okay. One meaning is Swarna Ananta can be taken as gold, which is a very good immunobooster, which can be given. Okay. Or it fulfills the criteria of this Viruddhahara and whatever. Then one more meaning of Ananta is Durva. If you take Durva as Ananta in this context, giving Durva immediately after birth, it acts as best hemostatic factor. Okay, Durva has got a proven effect over the vitamin K dependent clotting factors. Okay, it's very good for a good source of vitamin K, and it helps to increase the vitamin K dependent clotting factors. So vitamin K injection usually give immediately after birth. Okay, so owing to the immaturity of the liver is immature, so probably vitamin K clotting factors which are produced from the liver may be also deficient. With all these things, we go for vitamin K injection so that there should not be any bleeding in the baby. Okay, so maybe Durva, maybe hopefully useful in that manner. Another meaning of Ananta is also Shweta Sariva. So Sariva is the best Daha Prashamana and proven blood purifier. So maybe if the child is suffering or if the child has got vulnerable to suppose septicemia like condition, it acts as a blood purifier. That can be given. So you can give justification for each and everything. Okay, but these are the 3 important meaning of Ananta. So before directly taking Ananta as gold, we have to also consider these 3 important meaning. This is given in the Ashtanga Sangraha. So these are some of the basics of Jata Karma Samskara with their clinical interpretation and its utility in the present day practice. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and don't forget to subscribe my channel and also give your valuable comments. Again, we will meet in another class. Thank you very much.